Hello everyone, good evening and welcome along to another edition of the TCR series Sim Racing Series. My name is Ben Juris and we are here to witness some of your favourite TCR Europe drivers battling out in the virtual world whilst we still await the start of the real world season, which has already been announced to kick off at Castellet on the 21st to the 23rd of August. We tonight are at Castellet for our qualifying and then two races, just as you would like to see in the real world. We'll be doing it virtually. Now, if you've been following our races so far, we went into the last round of the championship in Hungary with Dniel Nash, leading by 44 points. However, by the end of the evening, having scored no points in the second race of the evening, his lead has dropped to 24 points now, ahead of Ben Spoldish, who took the race to victory. Dniel Nash took race one, having secured the pole position. He has been on pole position for every single one of our races so far. He's kind of dominated both qualifying and race one. He took a double victory at the first round of our season in Spa, but faltered, got caught up in incident in the second race at the reverse grid race at the Hungaroring, and therefore suffered with damage. And when these cars are damaged, they do not run as fast as a clean car. Now, Le Castellet, a very, very unique track, very smooth, very flat. Good opportunities for slipstreaming down this incredibly long back straight, the Mistral straight, but also a bit of a question mark over the track limits. There are no grassy areas. There are no gravel traps unless you go incredibly deep. And therefore, if you do come off the circuit a little bit, then you can gain an advantage. But we've got our race director, our human race director, watching everything that's going on. And if advantage is felt, then that will be punishable during the race. During qualifying, which we'll see in just a few moments' time, times will not count if you do run off the track. It's going to be a tricky one to get a good lap time in during this qualifying session without having those issues. I can tell you cars have just headed out onto circuit, so we will be watching qualifying in just a few moments' time. Plenty of names, sadly, not with us this evening, including Tom Coronel, who has sponsorship meal evening. I have been on one of Tom Coronel's sponsors meal evenings, and they're great fun. So I hope he's having a good time. The Backmans aren't with us this evening either, and that is because they are celebrating their mum's birthday, which I think is absolutely fair enough. That takes precedence. We also do not have Gianni Morbidelli, who's got business commitments. We have also missing Filippi, and a new guy who was entered into our entry list for this one, Colombiani, was entered and maybe discovered the pace is so hot in this championship that he decided he couldn't quite make it. So here are live pictures, and once again, as we saw last time at the Hungaroring, Aurélien Comte is the guy who leads the field around. They're using the Formula One layout of this Paul Ricard circuit. I think there's something like 130 different layouts around the various different configurations that you can have there. It's just this massive array of tarmac, and obviously at one point owned by Bernie Eccleston as a circuit, and called Paul Ricard for the Ricard, the very famous pastis drink from the south of France. It's about an hour and a half away from Marseille, this track, up in the foothills really, and but not far away from the Mediterranean, and therefore a great place to come and visit. And we will be visiting there on the 21st to the 23rd of August. Perfect time for a little holiday. The last time that TCR Europe raced in Le Castellet was back in 2008. We'll be visiting Zolder, we'll be visiting Monza, Barcelona, Spa, Francorchamps, and Jarama in the Real World Series, kicking off in the end of August. But for our online championship, we still have 4 rounds. Zolder, Monza, and Barcelona will round out our championship. And for every race that we compete in, there are free tyres on offer. So it is actually not just a bit of fun. There is some serious competition here. And Dniel Nagy has got quite a few sets now in his back pocket for when we go real racing. That will be very, very welcome indeed. There is Dniel. Now, is he at the head of the field? I think he may well have got past Aurélien Comte. Now, Comte is going to get a beautiful slipstream as they come around the bottom section of corners. Long back straight, as I mentioned before, into a fiddly chicane area, and then another long straight into the long right-hander at the end of the circuit. So really good place for Comte to be, as long as he doesn't exceed track limits. And we had plenty of drivers who did exceed track limits on that first warm-up lap. You can see there are some cones that are kind of depicting the track limits as well. They're not going to hurt the car if you hit them, but it does help the drivers understand exactly where track limits are. So that was the first of our very long straights. Here's the second of our very long straights. And then into the very long right hand. Incredible punishment for the front left tyre. And very difficult, actually, in these front-wheel drive touring cars to get a good balance through that sector of the lap. Quite fiddly. Got a very cold right front tyre when you go through there. And obviously it warms up as you put a huge amount of weight and pressure on that tyre. And now the last flick into the last corner. Very slow, actually, and onto the start-finish straight. And this should be the first representative lap time then. Dniel Nagy does a 2:11.273. Now, we've seen his pace very rarely beaten. Aurélien Comte will have enjoyed sitting behind him and learning exactly how Dniel Nagy has done it. And as the times tick in on our left-hand side, you'll see that nobody for the moment has challenged Dniel Nagy. Bench Boldish is 0.4 of a second back. Look also out for Mato. He took victory in race 2 in Budapest, but was deemed to have too much contact with Bench Boldish, and therefore he was given a time penalty and lost that win. So Homela will be looking to try and make amends for that. He is one of the drivers that has set 2 laps, but I think, according to the timing screen, has yet to actually register a time. Very, very fast. Another couple of people actually to watch out for. Gilles Magnus, down in 16th position, hasn't yet scored a victory, but has had really good form. Mikel Ashkenar we saw very, very strong, but kind of track dependent. And then the guy we just saw, Tamás Tankit, the Hungarian driver. Find where he is in the championship, because I'm pretty sure I was just looking at the graphic, and he was well up there as well. I think he's third in the championship. I did actually write it down somewhere. Here is Gilles. Different colours for this race. He's got the full RACB Belgian flag wrapped over his car. That differentiates himself a little bit from Niels Langeveld, his teammate. And here is Cantus. Fourth position for him, behind 10K and Boldish for the moment. And you can see that there is no Dniel Nash around him. He's lost a lot of time to Nash on that next lap. Is this going to be a better lap time from Nash as he comes across the line? He does do a 2:11.0 as Cantus dives into the pits behind. So reset for Cantus. He'll get a new set of tyres and he'll try and go again. I reckon Dniel Nash's time is beatable if somebody decides to use the Slipstream, but for the moment, nobody has. Waiting for Gilles Magnus to finish his lap. He may have gone into the pits. He did. So no, not registered a time yet, Gilles Magnus, at the tail of the field. Neither has Mikael Ashkenat. Here is Mato Homela, and Homela went second on that second attempt. So got himself right up into the mix of things in his Hyundai for BRC. And there are a little bit of unsettling curbs lying around the circuit, just to stop you from running too far off the track. Looks like he's got a little bit of understeer as he tries to get himself out of that bottom section of turns and onto the Mistral, the first part of the Mistral straight. So this is the kind of chicane in the middle part of the lap. It's not quite the same as the Formula One chicane, I don't think, but it's not dissimilar. Actually, it may be the same. Then he comes towards the very famous Courbe de Cygne. You see the car's not too bad through there, pretty easy flat, but the double droite here, much more tricky. Lots of lines on the track where the cars have been scrabbling for grip. And that's Fascinate. And then the Virage de Village, the Virage de Tour, and the Village de Pont to finish the lap. Decides to reset after that lap. Still 0.4 of a second to find over Dniel Nash. A lot of time to find. There's Bunch Boldish, third position. Boldish still running. Now, is he on a lap? Let me just have a look. No, it says out lap. So he will be starting a lap in a few moments' time. Has recently been announced as a competitor for the WTCR. So a bit of an upgrade for him into the world scene, although the World Championship only taking place in Europe. He goes to try and get a slingshot onto the start finishing straight and then down towards the first corner. You will be surprised how effective that is in giving you just that little bit of extra momentum. Traffic in front of him, good effort from some of the cars to get out of the way. That first corner is going to be tricky. Side by side, look how much curve he takes there. Really, really greedy. If he takes too much, though, the time will be disallowed. Cars for Boldish to contend with. Now, he could potentially pick up a bit of a slipstream along here. This could help him, but if he gets too close to Lewis Kent just ahead, I think that is Lewis Kent, so looks like Ventager actually. Didn't think that Ventager was here. He will be held up, and he could really do with just kind of slipstreaming and slingshotting past to get himself at least onto the slipstream behind. Not really close enough to Lewis Kent to be held up at least through there, but he's going to get a little bit closer. Oh, and Kent is getting in the way now. That's a shame for Bench. He's got himself onto the flashes, and I think Lewis has seen him now, but it was too late for Boldish, and he's going to have to go again. Timing screen on the left-hand side to see if anything changes. A lot of drivers have done their fourth lap, but I don't think we saw too many changes. And what is this lap going to be for Boldish? Just how much time did he lose through that final sector? Now he decides to go in the pits. Bails out of it straight away. So Daniel Nagy on the pole. Gilles Magnus has got up into second position. So Gilles actually has made up some ground here. Last lap. So 3.5 tenths now behind Daniel Nagy is Magnus. Homler third. Boldish fourth. And then Tenke fifth position. Longeveld in sixth. Then it's Eddie Claret. Aurélien Comte now down to ninth position. So after that initial lap time, he's yet to improve. Then Studec, Davidovsky and Bert. Ashkina only down in 13th position right now. Mora is one of our new drivers into the championship this weekend. Al Khalifa in 15th. Kevin Chicon in the Alfa Romeo 16th. And then Reba in 17th position with Lewis Kent, the only driver yet to score a lap time. Also now with a slightly different livery on his car. Moving away from the Come To You stock livery that they used at the start of the season. Maybe just starting to get himself gathered in pace and get a little bit of extra exposure for those sponsors that he'll be carrying in the real TCR series when we kick off in August. So quite a few different liveries. Saw also in the week, Pepe Oriola has been announced that he'll be driving for Brutal Fish in the European season. That'll be great to have Oriola in that championship, and hopefully he's getting himself on the sim. I know he's got a sim at home, so hopefully he's getting a little bit of practice in, and we may see him at the next round of the championship in Zolder. Lots of cars now heading into the pits. Longeveld diving in as well. Change actually in the regulations have allowed these drivers to go into pit lane rather than resetting on track. We did see quite a bit of resetting on track before, and they kind of seem to be making it cleaner for us as viewers. Fifth position, just a fraction behind Boldish. He does improve his time, but he doesn't improve his position, and he's now just 0.02 of a second behind Boldish. Here, he's one of the few drivers to have done 6 laps, with Jimmy Claret and Teddy Claret also having done 6. Aurélien Comte as well, and Studec down in 10th position. On board with Bench Boldish. You can almost hear the car accelerating when he opens up that steering wheel, allows the car to keep gathering momentum. Up into 6th gear now. So hard to find your braking points for these chicanes. Very hard to find a reference point. I think it's just there where the track kind of splits off into various different forms. I seem to remember when the World Touring Cars raced at Paul Ricard, they actually had the shortened version of the circuit rather than this full-length version used for Formula One. The European TCR Europe did the same thing. I'm sure my friend Phil Kinch, who's with me as an advisor this evening, will tell me otherwise. It was Borkovic who won both races in 2018. a bit on the championship that they were supporting as well, or running alongside. Third position. He's about 0.03 of a second behind Mato, but the gap is massive to that initial lap time from Dniel Nagy. So good at doing that, isn't he? First lap out of the box, smashes a good one. His second lap out of the box, even better. Gilles Magnus then. Let's see if he can get himself onto the front row of the grid. That was his out lap. This is him starting a lap now. See if you can find out where he's losing and gaining time. 150, braking now at 50. Engine rev quite highly. Lots of curb taken through the first chicane. And now try and be fingertips with the steering wheel. Through the second chicane on the lap. Now to here to slingshot yourself back up towards the Mistral straight, flat out over that left-hand curb there. On ahead, he won't really be picking up a slipstream right now, but if Chacón's not particularly fast through the chicane, and Chacón taking a very funny line there, maybe trying to get out of the way. Don't want to scrub too much speed with understeer. Let the car settle and then back underway again up the second half of the Mistral and into Signes. I'm sure it's not Signes, I'm more senior. Listening to too many English commentators. Throws the Audi through the right-hander, Fascinate. Get it settled. Again, try not to have too much lateral movement, which will scrub speed off. Magnus will get another lap, I think. And he has just about caught Kevin Chacón, but it won't be enough to influence him. Actually, it's Lewis Kent again. And we keep seeing Lewis getting in the way. Oh, a little slide there, just unsettles the car. Towards the line he goes then. And I don't think it's going to be a better lap time. And that was simply down, I think, to that last corner. Everything else looked pretty clean, but just a bit too sideways at the very last corner. Thank you to Paul Kinch, who confirms that this is the layout that the TCR Europe guys used when they visited Paul Ricard in 2018. So Nagy and Homela, a lockout for BRC at the front row. Then Magnus and Jimmy Clary out to fourth position. Good effort ahead of Bolish and Tenke. Sounds like a lot more slip there from Mato Homela going through the chicane. Here with Dniel Nagy. Is Nagy and the two teammates kind of helping each other out to try and get them a little bit of space? It would be very advisable to do that in the race. And when you can rely upon a teammate like Dniel Nagy so much, he's just run a little bit wide. Steering angle is kept the same all the way through Fascinate. Not too much movement on it, just feeding it in and then winding it off. Dniel Nagy gets out of the way at the last moment. See that arrow there, just signifying where he is. They're not dropping it down to first gear. I'm sure Gilles Magnus did drop it down to first gear. Nash goes into pit lane. Mato Homela comes across the line. And he must have run track limits because there is no improvement and no lap time recorded there. So maybe track limits. Either way, second position will be good enough. Qualifying is over. Just a couple more drivers to finish their laps. Remember, Gilles Magnus was able to do another lap. So let's see if that's an improvement. No, he's going into pit lane. He's bailed out of that one. They'll know if they're doing it on a better or slower lap. Thomas Tenke is only down in 6th position right now. Can he get himself up a few more positions? He still looks like he's on a hot one here. This should be therefore on his dash, a better lap time, or at least close. And if he is a better lap time, he'll finish it. He comes towards the line. Where's he going to move himself up to? He doesn't. Or Teddy Claret improve up to 5th position. How did that happen? 6th and dropped a position. Here's Teddy Claret. 9 laps completed. And he'll start just behind Jimmy, just 0.02 of a second behind. Isn't it? Other than Dniel Nash, who looks like he's going to dominate again because he has such a good grasp of just banging in those laps as soon as he needs to. We're just going to chill a little bit, let the drivers take a sip of water, and we'll then get ourselves into race mode. 55-kilometer race 1, using the grid that's just been set, and then reverse top 12, and we'll go again for race 2. This is the 4th round of the championship. As I say, we're now midway through. We've got 3 rounds left after this, and they happen every other Wednesday. It's a bit of Wednesday fun. Grid is already kind of set. Good effort from the drivers. They are keen to get running this evening. Let me just see if there's any chat going on. I don't see any chat. Nice and calm between everyone. All kinds of different reliability issues can happen in virtual racing. If you do have an issue with your computer, we saw Gilles Magnus's pedals just disconnect. Lewis Kent's computer turned off at the last round. So you have to keep all of these things in the back of your mind. There may not necessarily be fully unreliability of the cars, like an engine failure or gearbox failure, but there can be problems with your computer. Let's have a look then at the results. And the grid is formed with Dniel Nash and Mato on the front row of the grid. Magnus, Jimmy Claret, Teddy Claret, Ben Spoldish, Tenke, Longueval, Comte, Studec, Davidovsky, Bert, Lewis Kent, Miguel Ashkiner will be disappointed to be so far down. Mora, Khalifa, Chekon, Reba. We're actually just waiting for Dniel Nash to enter into the session. Not quite sure where he is right now, but for the moment, according to my timing screen, he is not where he should be. But timing screen sometimes does lie a little bit, so we're not quite sure. We'll keep an eye on the chat, see if he comes in and says that something's happened. But anything can. Gap reduced massively from when we started the Budapest and Hungary rounds to when we ended. Just 24 points now, 25 points for victory, but he's just got 10 there for his pole position. He has been dominant in the qualifying sessions that we've had. He's been dominant in the race 1s that we've had. Race 2, a bit more tricky because there is a lot of chaos in touring car racing. There is quite a lot of chaos in sim racing. And those two combined means there's a lot of chaos that we see at the start of reverse grid races. We will be soon underway, and we'll get our first races underway this evening. So if you are just joining us, a bit of a shame. We are missing quite a few drivers this evening. The real world has opened up. I guess this is the issue, right? And now we have other things that and other priorities. So Tom Caronell on a sponsored dinner. Gianni Morbidelli has business commitments. The Backmans are celebrating their mum's birthday. So I think that's the best reason, to be honest. And just can hear a bit of sound in the background. But for the moment, no lights yet on the country. And being told in my ear, 50 seconds to go before we get going. So waiting for the start. Look forward to maybe seeing a couple of wildcards jumping into this TCR Europe series as it comes to its conclusion, especially those that are entering late into the European Championship. I think entries are still open. They certainly have reopened for other championships. And so now that the calendars are different and they are somewhat reduced, perhaps, we may see different people moving around. And therefore, if they're entered into TCR Europe, they can come and play here. Maybe Dniel Nagy also, perhaps. Lights are on, and we are going to go racing here at Paul Ricard. Raise your Ricard to TCR Europe. We're underway. A good start from Dniel Nagy, who's already pulled a little bit of a healthy advantage over the second car of Mato. Gilles Magnus looking down the inside. We've got Thomas Tenke, very aggressive also in the Seat. And Dniel Nagy very, very tight through the first couple of turns. And penalties, as you can see at the top end of the screen, are locked for the first couple of corners, and then they'll become unlocked. So now race control is judging all of the contact. A little bit of contact there I saw at the back of the field from, it's not Thomas Tenke, is it? That is Mikael Ashkener. No, it is Tenke. Who's going round the long way, trying to go all the way around the outside. I'm not sure if that's going to work. He's got Niels Langeveld just in front of him. Langeveld in 6th position. And Teddy Claret, who's not made a particularly good start, just behind in the Peugeot. Oh, big defensive move there from Langeveld. Goes to the inside, puts Tenke to the outside line. And they run side by side. Difficult to really see which place you want to be here. Little bit of rubbing. And Aurélien Comte's getting involved in the rear end of Teddy Claret as well. The two Peugeots there. Total versus Total, if you have a look at their sponsors on the front of the cars. Slipstreaming, who picking who. Langeveld still down the inside. And Aurélien Comte fancies that line to follow. Have really, really tough stewards in this race. They are very, very tough on any kind of contact. As Gilles Magnus runs side by side with Teddy Claret, Jimmy Claret here. Jimmy looking to the inside, gets the flashing lights on. Generally, I think that means that the ABS is kicked in and the car is locking up. I don't mean ABS, just the car's locked up, sorry. So Nagy is leading the race. Boldish running side by side here. With Jimmy Claret. So the two Hyundais clear out front. Nagy versus Homela. Then a gap to Magnus. Then it's Jimmy Claret, sorry. With bench Boldish crawling all over the back of him. And Aurélien Comte is having to go super defensive further behind from Nicolas Bertz, who's getting himself involved. Ashken is up to 11th. Big slide there from Claret. That's going to invite bench Boldish down the inside. It'll be an easy pass for Boldish in the Seat. Boldish now moves himself up to 4th position. Jimmy. Now down to 5th. He was up to 3rd, I think, at the very start of the race, but lost the position to Magnus and to Boldish. Have made a break out front, and Gilles Magnus is going to really struggle to catch them. So that first lap, 2 seconds better than Gilles Magnus on that first lap alone. It was incredible, and I guess partly because Mato Homela kind of is working so well together with Dniel Nagy. Got a great relationship. Tenke trying to go all the way around the outside of Claret. Surely that's not going to work. Overlap here. Thomas but he's on the outside line, which will give him the inside line for Pont. Can he get down the inside? He does. Nils Langevel decides not to follow through. So that's a position gained for Tomasz Tenke. That's a 5th position now. Back is Jimmy Claret and Nils Langevel down the inside here. We're going 3 wide into turn 1. Langevel's going to have the inside line. Who's going to bail? Contact! Knew that was going to happen at some point. It was never going to work. And of course, the cars would have known that there was 1 car beside them. They may not have known that there were 2 cars beside them. Difficult to punish that one in terms of race control, but they will be looking at it. Down the inside of Teddy Claret, who's got himself ahead of his brother. And a little bit of side-by-side contact and slides wide. Jimmy trying to go around the outside, and Comte is in the middle of it too. Lots of Peugeots, all squabbling over the same piece of French tarmac here. Riding the slipstream. Here comes Aurélien Comte to the inside. Now, one of the things that gets really punished if you do have a damaged car and if you are hit is that straight line speed. Aurélien to the inside, gets that move done, gets himself up into 7th position. Henke 5th, Boldish 4th, Gilles Magnus 3rd, and then the 2 Hyundais, Hommler and Nash. Still this squabble continues though. Jimmy Claret all over the place, trying to hold back. Aurélien Comte, all over the place, trying to hold back Jimmy, who goes to the inside. Takes the position, pushes Comte wide. Teddy should follow through. Doesn't quite find the space. You can hear the tyres scrabbling for grip. Lots and lots of understeer. And that's Michael Ashkenar, who we really haven't seen anything of, about to join this Peugeot party in the Cupra just behind, kind of gold colours. Running in the world version of their esports. There is Teddy Claret behind Aurélien Comte. Look at how the slipstream works though. Incredible, the extra speed that Teddy gets. And he's got a better line through the first couple of corners as well. They have been absolutely matching each other throughout the whole of this series. They've been like hundredths of a second between them. So to have a car between them is kind of giving the advantage here to Jimmy. And Aurélien is really, really defending hard. Great slipstream effect there, and he'll carry that momentum all the way into the braking zone, but Comte has got the inside line. Oh, brilliant bit of rubbing racing there. Lots of contact, but he made it stick. You don't bend the steering wheel out of shape, because if you bend the steering out of shape, then you lose a lot of speed down these 2 straights. But now it's Teddy Claret offering up the slipstream to Comte and Ashkenar behind. Drivers are still running. Davidovsky just moved up ahead of Reba, so that's teammates fighting each other. Is fighting each other. There is Studec, 12th position. Davidovsky just behind, and then his teammate after that. And here's Ashkenar. Obviously not been able to put quite as much practice into the this week's action as previous weeks. I do know also that Ashkenar has been running on a different platform for a bit, doing touring car racing. This isn't the Assetto Corsa platform, but he's been running on something different. Feels very different, drives very different, and maybe Ashkenar just struggling to really get the pace. Also looks to me as though he's got a bit of damage to his front right-hand corner. So Ashkenaut, well, he's in the top 10, so he will benefit from reverse grid. At the moment, Studec is the guy who will take the pole position. It's Nagy will taking the full points ahead of Homola. And what is that red flashing on the Dniel Nagy's timing screen? I wonder if he's got a problem. We check on board, check with Dniel Nagy now. Here he is. Wonder whether that was a connection warning, perhaps? Ahead of Mato Homola. There is all the details. And okay. A very, very good job of catching onto the tail of these guys. He's only been taking a little bit of time out each lap, but with still half a race to go, Magnus has given himself the possibility, I think, of getting himself into... Gaps are kind of stable at 1.5 seconds. Longerveld just less than a second behind Tenke. Otherwise, Conte behind Ashkenaut. So Ashkenaut has managed to get past Conte. And I wonder whether Conte is actually struggling with damage because he's not being able to really fight back with those Peugeots he was fighting with earlier. Here is Niels Longerveld, race winner on our second weekend. Our second day, I should say. Took race 2. Of those points coming into this race, Boldish 24 back, Tenke 44 back, Ashkenaut 62 back from Dniel Nagy. Proved his advantage after qualifying as well, but Longerveld, I think, is inside the top 5. I think it's Longerveld who is next up. He's had a pretty good run of things. Out a little bit further at the front of the field, but here's Studec in 12th position, looking to try and get past Nicolas Bert. Now, if he does this, he'll actually lose a position on the grid for race 2. Put Bert on the pole position, although both of them would still be on the front row. So not necessarily worth a massive risk. Bert taking a lot of curb through Signe. And then through Fascinate. And actually, we saw a decent result from Davidovski in the race 2 of the Hungaro Ring. And Davidovski's finding his rhythm here as well. He's getting onto the tail of these guys. It doesn't help that Bert and Studec massively missed the apex there. And this is very important for Davidovski. One position here will put him onto the pole position of race 2, and then he's got a real opportunity to show what he's made of. He definitely looks like he's got the pace. Way better through the final turn. And I think he's just going to breeze past Studec here. The two Hondas, equal power, of course. Inside line for Davidovski into the first part of the first chicane. But if Studec can hang out all the way around the outside, no, he can't. Then he would have had the inside anyway. But Studec looks like he's struggling all of a sudden. And now he will start 13th in our second encounter. Whoa, huge amounts of curves from Davidovski. Davidovski has found a turn of form. A 12.5, his best lap. 13.1 was Bert's best lap. So that should be another position that he'll gain if he keeps up this momentum. Bert feels the need to go defensive into the chicane on the Mistral straight. Round the outside, and lovely done. That Honda is fast. Wonder whether he's found a different accelerator pedal, or I don't know, a bit more fuel on the map or something, but he's got great pace. Of course, the other thing is a lot of these cars have been involved in skirmishes, so they could well have be struggling with a bit of damage, but Davidovsky is not at all. Great pace. Leader. Good advantage now, 1.7 seconds over teammate Mato Homola, and equidistant to Gio Magnus in third. Settling down now. It's a technical circuit, Paul Ricard. It's not as easy as it perhaps looks on paper. Throwing a car over these curbs and things. Very easy to unsettle it and get it sideways, and then scrubbing all that momentum, you suddenly lose ground. Thomas Tenke is starting to really feel the heat now from Niels Langeveld. Langeveld fancies P5 by the end of this race. Tenke, sponsored by G Simulation, so plenty of simulator links. He's screaming for mercy in the latter part of this race. They will use up quite a lot of energy. And now, down towards the chicane. Can Langeveld get himself P5? The latter half of a race in a front-wheel drive is the kind of tendency is to push harder, to ask more of your front tyres, and therefore you get even more understeer and scrub even more speed. But whatever's happening to Thomas Tenke, it's a struggle at the latter half of this race. Well, not much longer wheelbase, but a longer wheelbase than the Cupra ahead. That's slightly tougher on the front tyres, but slightly easier on the rears. It's all rather been drama-free. All of our drivers are still in. Martin Reber's now down in 17th position, so he's had a bit of an off. Fallen behind Mora and Al Khalifa. Conte drops to 10th. Nicolas Bert is on the pole position provisionally for our second race in 12th behind Davidovsky, who's had an amazing second half of the race. I wonder if Davidovsky can follow Cont. We get the feeling that Cont has got an issue. So I wonder whether there is Davidovsky just in the front of screen, whether he can catch. Bert in 12th. Looks like he may find himself back under pressure from Studech as well. So plenty still to shake out here with about 1.5 laps remaining now. A little bit of opposite lock from Nicolas Bertz as he brakes and the rear just starts to much cleaner through that second part of the track. And Langeveld is ahead of Tenke. So we've got a change there. Back. But I don't feel like there's any opportunity. Kevin Chacon has just popped up on my timing screen. He's in pits 5 laps ago, so Chacon has had massive connection issues throughout the whole of this series. Computer issues as well. And the only Alfa Romeo in the field has gone missing, sadly. And Dniel Nagy is going to win this one. To Mato in the last part of the race has obviously preserved. The Audis are looking better at the end, aren't they? The longer wheelbase cars. And now Nash comes towards the line. And clicks on to the last lap of the race. Meanwhile, further back, other battles still going on. Thomas Tenke trying to find a way back past Niels Langeveld for 5th position. Trying to find a way past Nicolas Bert to get himself on the pole for race 2. So I imagine a bit of a diving manoeuvre that's going to happen there at some point. There it is, coming across the line. Not quite close enough at the moment. Not one for Studec, because it's either he starts 13th in race 2 or he starts on the pole. And I know which one I'd rather be. All the track limits and more being used to try and eke out every single bit of mile an hour that you can find. Thanks you to Tamas Stegi, and I'm sorry for pronouncing your name wrong, for clarifying that red flashing tower was actually us fixing the tower. So thank you for your feedback. And of course, if you are chatting away on our streams, thank you very much. Confirmation that Chekon did have an internet connection issue, and we'll try and restart, but he's basically been struggling the whole of this season. Studec right on the tail then. We'll be able to get the last of that action, but let's see Dniel Nagy across the line. Homela's done enough, I think, to hold on to P2, although Magnus was very strong in the Audi at the end of the race. Through the last couple of corners then. Hungarian has won, and he's taken pole in every single qualifying session. He has won every single race won so far in this TCR Virtual Series. We've taken 300 hours to build this championship, to build these cars specifically licensed for TCR. And Nash is the master. Towards the line he comes. The Hyundai is yet to cross the line. He's got to get a bit further down. There is the line. He takes victory ahead of Mato Homolo and Gilles Magnus. But what about the battles further out behind? Langeveld holds off Tenke for 5th position. But what about that pole position battle? Davidovsky's pretty close to the back of Aurelien Cantus as they come towards the line. And there is contact between Studec and Nicolas Bert. Studec is coming across the line to pick up P12. Gosh, I wish we had replays in Assetto Corsa. Studec will take the pole position for race 2 unless race control can do something about that pretty quickly. Bert, P13, has retired out the race. There's some tomfoolery that happened right there. Penalties can be looked at by race control after the race. I'm not unsure whether they get much of a chance to do that between the races. Because, of course, that would then affect the grid for race 2. I can't remember how we used to do it in the old days when this was the format, when you had such close back-to-back races. I don't believe we ever were able to affect the grid. We were able to penalise for the race before, but we were never able to rectify a grid before the race. I don't know whether our race control guy is watching. If you... Hello. Nice to see you. And pretty sure that's the rule, isn't it? Although I'm sure you'd sit back with a beer and say, don't ask me. Oh, memories of TCR International and traveling around the world with a fantastic group. I was heading back to pit lane then. That is it for race 1. And they will regroup, take a sip of water, and we'll go racing for race 2 in a few moments' time. The race 2 is always very entertaining. Dniel Nagy has struggled the last couple of races to do the double. And he's going to do some reverse donuts. Yes, Dniel Nagy. And since we saw those in real life, I remember Stefano Camini doing those. I think when he won the inaugural TCR International Series, he did reverse donuts. Either way, the game's going to throw him off and say, that's enough, Dniel Nagy. Stop playing silly. He's got some work to do, though, because he has struggled in the last couple of races to get himself from P12 onto a decent finishing position. He'll taken decent points out of his championship rivals, and I think there's no real doubting, unless he ends up missing around for some reason, Dniel Nagy, who I think also will be appearing in the world scene, although who knows now, because with the world calendar just being released, we may well have a complete mix-up, because they've gone and put their calendar similar to the TCR Europe calendar, and so it'd be difficult for teams and drivers to do both. I don't know what, I'm pretty sure I've seen Dniel Nagy originally on the entry list for World, but he may choose that European is the better place to be. I would. And he can come and join us. Take a quick kind of rest, a bit of a breather, and we'll go back into the second race. At the moment, I can see that Andres Dudek is on the pole. So any penalties for contact in race one. I'm not saying that there was any fault in what Dudek did. We didn't see it. We just saw that Bert was wobbling all over the track. So the results of race one, as you can see on your screens, Nash, Hommler, Magnus was the front row. The podium. Bolish, Longeveld, Tenke, Jimmy and Teddy, Ashken P9, Conte P10, Davidovsky, Bert, and it wasn't Bert Studic, it was Studic Bert. Not quite sure why my timing screen says that. And then we only lost Kevin Chacon. So Chacon will rejoin, get his internet connection fixed, and he'll be at the tail of the field. Where does he live in Italy? I think he must live in a cave in Italy to have such poor internet connection. He's always struggled in this race. I say that. I don't know. I'm going to have to move my green screen to a different place for the next few weeks, and maybe my internet connection will be just as bad. Fingers crossed it won't be, because that will be a disaster. But we are just waiting for those drivers to get themselves logged back into the race. Once the last of them are in, we can go racing, and we'll see how we go. I won't repeat what my exec producer has just written to me, just in fear of when I cross the border into Italy, again, getting punished. I'm already in trouble for my pizza chat last race. And so to criticize the whole country's internet, I think Alessandro would be a little bit over the top. There are portions, I'm sure, that are worse than others. And like there are portions of not just France, but also my little village where internet is much better than other places. There are only 600 or 700 people in my village, and somehow the internet is much better one end of the village to the other. I do not understand as that I speak in French because I live in France, if you didn't know that before. So we're just having a little server reset. I think we've got to have a couple of technical issues to get that second race underway, which means I have to talk. Gosh, what am I going to talk about? Content man, Phil Kinch can suggest something. No? Oh, I've got some pictures. So they're all flicking up. Maybe we are back underway. We don't have to do a full reset, I should say. Countdown is on, so maybe we are going to go racing in 35 seconds. We are. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Let's turn our attention to racing. Studic is on the pole position. If there is penalties to be awarded, that will be awarded later. Let's see if he or Davidovsky can take a Honda victory. We've not seen one yet. I love Hondas, kind of one of my favorite brands, but they're all my favorite brands, actually, in TCR. All 6 lights will illuminate. Let's go racing now here at Paul Ricard. start from Studec, but not necessarily such a good start from Davidovski, who's got Aurelian Comte without damage now on his inside line. Could be an opportunity for Comte this race. Ashkenar is the gold Cupra just in front of, just behind that. He's slotted into 4th position. Aurelian Comte all the way around the outside of the Honda. Oh, here we go. This is Aurelian Comte, and we've got a big crash behind. Nils Longerveld behind there. Was that somebody bailing out of the race? Timing screen is going to sort itself out. Teddy Claret disappeared stage left. Ben Spoldish also involved. He's dropped further back. Davidovski's being mugged left, right and centre here at the start of the race. Has not got his elbows out at all. Neither has Studec. Ashkenar and Mato Homola up to P3. Homola wants the reverse grid race victory that he had taken away from him in Budapest last time. Comte trying to break free at the head of the field as the faster drivers trying to make their way through the pack. Tenke now trying to find a way past Jimmy Claret and Studec, but he's got Gilles Magnus right behind him. And where is Daniel Nagy? 11th position just behind them. So Nagy has not made as good a start as Mato Homola. I'd love to have seen how Homola managed to do that. And 4 cars, contact. I think Magnus is going to try and go around the outside. He's put himself on the outside line, sideways from Tenke, sideways from Claret. Contact again from Magnus, and that's opened the door. Was that Daniel Nash just inviting himself to the inside? Oh, Tenke, what a rejoin that was. Horrible. And that may have been a pit and a reset for Thomas Tenke. Such a big hit. It was Teddy Claret and Bet who disappeared off stage light. Thank you very much, Phil Kinch. Longerveld, it is down in 6th position with Jimmy Claret behind him, but I'm sure a couple of these cars are carrying damage. Nash is up to P5 now. He's got Davidovski ahead of him, and Homola is right on the tail of Ashkenar for P2. Opportunity for Nils Longerveld. And for Mato Homola. There is Homola. Was that Homola going through? No, that was Daniel Nagy going through. And Longerveld with Claret and somehow Bet up in 8th position. I wonder whether he cut the track by doing that, because he's done a very good job of getting right up there. Al Khalifa is disconnected, sadly, so we've lost our Qatari driver. So keep saying that's a fantastic livery that he runs, but sadly we don't see much of it because he's never really in the battle. Here is Mato Homola trying to find a way past Mikael Ashkenar. Ashkenar really strong at some of the tracks that we've been to, but in others has not really shown, and certainly has been struggling here at Paul Ricard. Slipstream. Pulls out of it with the momentum. It's going to be an easy pass. Oh, he turns right in on him. They need to download Crew Chief and get themselves a spotter so they just don't keep turning into cars that they can't see. Of course, in sim racing, especially if they've not got a triple screen or they haven't got the VR goggles, Ashkenar would not have really known, other than that little red arrow that we saw earlier on when we were riding on board. You'd never have known that there was a car there. Look, just sometimes see if the car behind is close enough, a red arrow appearing in the cockpit. And that is telling the driver where the traffic is around them. Aurelian Comte, and he's been caught by Homola and Ashkenar. And look, just behind, Davidovski's actually managing to keep up with these guys. And then it's Daniel Nagy. And whoa, too much curve from Mikael Ashkenar. Easy pickings for Davidovski. Ashkenar's got past Davidovski once already. He's going to have to do it again. At least the track does punish you if you take too much curb. Proper aerial moment that was for Mikhail. Europe champion from 2018. Kevin Chacon disconnected as well, so he is gone missing as well. He needs to go and find a friend with better internet connection for the rest of the series. Must be so frustrating for him, putting all of this practice in, and then each time being kicked out the server by his internet. On board from Dniel Nagy. Loads of speed into the chicane. And now into the slipstream again. Just not sure if that steering wheel looks completely straight to me. Maybe a little bit of damage, a little bit of contact in the first corners. It was very hard to see what happened that first corner. Proper skirmish behind our leaders, but we were focusing on the front couple of cars. Nash taking way too much speed into the first part. Well, way too much speed in comparison to Ashkana, who was on a completely different line. And have the pace to catch Davidovsky. Davidovsky is doing really well here. This could well be his first podium of the season. Into the final turn, Nash throws it up the inside. Bit of contact, oh, and sideways. Committal move, and it required Ashkana to let him through. And Ashkana just catching him with a little bit of contact. To Ashkana's car. That left light, not as illuminated as the right. That means he was feeling it as well. He probably did that over the curbs and not actually when he collided with anybody. Keep an eye on the timing tower on the left-hand side, just to make sure the gaps at the front of the field aren't too great. I was surprised to see Homola not closing in on Cont as much as you'd have thought. Homola and Nagy, his teammate, were the class of the field in race one. And somehow he managed to get himself up pretty much onto the podium within the first couple of corners, didn't he? He either benefited from cars going left, right, and centre. Or there was, or he helped that situation. This time going around the outside, giving him loads of room, being super fair to the Spaniard. The Spaniard decides that he'll use the runoff area to keep running side by side. That'll just limit where Nash can put his car. He's going to squeeze him, squeeze him, squeeze him. Oh, he's managed to get the overlap already. Such was the momentum, but look how close he is onto the tail of Dniel Nagy. That's going to really giving Nagy a hard time whilst he can, knowing that Nagy is probably going to disappear into the distance once he gets his rhythm. So patient on the throttle through there. Look how much those cars are braking and turning at the same time. If you did your very first racing car driver lesson, you'd always be told brake, then turn, then accelerate. But as you become a professional, those lines blur significantly, especially in a touring car where you have the drive through the front wheels, you have the steering through the front wheels, and the rear wheels are just passengers. They're just there for the ride. They don't do anything. And therefore, you effectively trying to lift them off the ground to reduce the amount of friction and to get the car to turn. Second out of Conte on that last lap. We definitely still have a race for the lead. Look how much more Kirby can take, being so much more greedy than Aurélien Cont. And now trying to break the slipstream. The Peugeot zigging left and right. Lot of left and right. He's just faster around the circuit, and Okay, you can keep doing that. You're going to slow yourself down along the straight as well. You may break the slipstream a little bit. Homolo is going to catch Kant around the rest of the circuit. So he's just going to have to defend when he needs to defend. And here, that would have been absolutely flat to the floor through there, and just the speed scrubbing by the amount of steering angle you put in. So you'll be feeding the car in super lightly and softly. Opening the door, and then Kant's just gone a little bit wide through there. Mato right on the tail now. Could he do it, Dniel Nagy, and throw it up the inside? Nash has got past Ashkina now and set about trying to chase down Davidovsky, but he's got 1.6 to find still. And Kant turning in a little bit early there. Homolo getting slightly put off. Homolo needs to do this cleanly. Won the race last time out in Budapest, but then was given a time penalty for contact by getting that lead. And he will want to do this legitimately. Here's Niels Langeveld. Now on the back of Michael Ashkina. So Ashkina probably with a damaged car, but also just doesn't have the pace around Paul Ricard. Ashkina was third in the real world race back in 2018. At that time, I suppose at that time it would have been a Seat rather than a Cupra, although it was also a Cupra. Side by side further back, this is Jimmy Claret trying to find a way past Nicolas Bert, and this is for 8th position. So the Claret's not quite starring like they did in race 1, and we've had a disconnect from Martin Rieber as well, so Rieber out of this one. Only a couple of laps remaining. The field is reducing quite a lot. Lewis Kent, the last of our runners, in 14th spot. This is the battle for the lead. 0.4 of a second separating the two of them. So actually Homolo coming out of that chicane a little bit further back than he was last time. Now, a little bit gaining, a little bit gaining. How much does he gain through? Yeah, he gains about 1/10 of a second just through there alone. And then a huge amount gained into the first part of the corner, but that's why, because he's gone too deep, he's gone too wide. Different philosophies from the two drivers going through Fascinate. And see how Comte just really struggles to get the nose into that turn there. And that's what really allows Homolo down the inside. But Homolo knows that he probably could throw it down the inside into the last turn here. But if there's contact, he'll be thrown out. He doesn't want that contact. He's going to have to do this one fairly. But all of this hassle, Aurélien Comte is going to have to absorb. That car will be huge in the mirrors of the Peugeot. And all the time, there'll be an arrow flicking from left to right to signify exactly where Homolo is. Meanwhile, Davidovsky doing a good job still in 3rd position, holding that advantage to Dniel Nagy. Nagy is really not gaining that much. Squabbling too much as well. Davidovsky might be into the party. You can see further back, a little bit of time lost in that first part of the lap for Davidovsky. And Nagy is less than a second behind now. But it's close, it's tight. No runaways at all here. I think Mato is being very, very fair with his driving. He just wants to win this without then having a penalty. You probably wouldn't get a penalty for the contact that he had in Budapest, but we are being super strict in this sim version. Oh, he's got a good run now. He's about 1/10 of a second closer than he was last time through that turn. And look at that time underneath on the right-hand side, underneath his picture, how it's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down. Now through Fascinate. Less than 1/10 of a second, less than 2/10 of a second. Get the car slowed into here. Try and carry as much momentum, but look how much lock he's doing. scrubbing that left front tyre. It's calling out for mercy. Kant really struggles to hook the curb there. And once again, just a fraction too wide. But he kind of benefits on the exit. Look, it's gone up to 3.5 tenths of a second now, that rolling gap. Davidovsky 1.3 behind. There he is. And now has Daniel Nagy half a second behind him. A 6th spot. So he's done a very good job of things as our front four are together. Correct. But Magnus in the background, you can see. He is in 5th. Bert's in 6th. On their way past. And Jimmy Clary, they're all kind of locked together. So there's a bit of a traffic jam behind Nicolas Bert in 6th position. But we'll focus on this battle for the lead. One of those races where you just do not know where to look. You do not know where to point the camera. Thankfully, we've got many cameramen in this race. Every single car has its own camera. Don't have to worry about it. An absolute dream for our executive producer this evening. Look at the gap. Coming down, coming down, coming down. Conte's all over the place. Is there a gap this time through? There may well be a gap into the chicane. Oh, we go super wide just when we want to see if there's contact. Fantastic run off the chicane though. Can Aurelien Kant absorb all of this pressure? They run side by side, going in to Senior with Hommler on the outside. Conte will hold that inside line and therefore will hold the inside line for the next part as well, unless Hommler can switch back into Fascinate. A little bit to get the car slowed down. Great defensive work from Aurelien Kant here. Really, really, really hard fall. And really fair. Great work from Mato Hommler too. As you can see in the mirror, that Daniel Nash is starting to put real pressure on Davidovsky. And just keeping quick look. Bert, Longeveld, Clare, Boldish. And then Ashkener down now in 10th position. Oh, there's contact. Contact in the final corner, just in the place where we thought it was going to happen. But now we've got 4 for the lead. Mato Hommler will really want to give back the position to Aurelien Kant so he doesn't pick up a post-race penalty. All of that's allowed Daniel Nagy up to 3rd position, but Davidovsky fancies a go back down the inside, and we've got 4 very much for the lead here. Daniel Nagy maybe even get himself up into 2nd position. Aurelien Kant taking huge liberties with the curves. Overlap as well as he got back down the inside. I think he's quite close enough. Can't see. Davidovsky's still fancying a way to get himself back onto the podium here. Racing lines are all over the place as we've got just 2 laps remaining now. First time that Mato Hommler is providing the slipstream to Aurelien Kant. We haven't seen that during this race so far. They need a good exit onto the straight, and now look at the train. And Davidovsky will be picking up a 3-car slipstream. Nagy has got a 2-car slipstream, and Kant can easily throw it up the inside again. He looks to the inside to the braking zone, and he does so, makes that one stick, and Hommler slots back into 2nd. Now, Daniel Nagy to play, and Davidovsky to play. Davidovsky not quite close enough to pick up a slipstream, but maybe Daniel Nagy fancies himself a P2 ahead of his teammate. Again, they're going to be super fair with Mato Hommler. Won't want contact, and I think Aurelien Kant really, really wants this. The way that he threw that car through the first couple of corners. Taken by our 2 Hyundais. Oh, again, Kant's really, really, well, he's quite early on the brakes now to get that nose in to that particular corner. But it kind of catching out Mato Hommler and Daniel Nagy behind. We're about to click on to our last lap. Is it going to be a Peugeot victory for the first time in the Sim Series? Or what about a Honda victory? Maybe Davidovsky will pick up the pieces. He's much closer than he's been the last couple of corners. There's a good queue of cars behind Nicolas Bett, who holds on to 6th right now. Actually, no changes in that group. Who wants this enough? Is there an opportunity to do this without connection, without too much physicality? Dniel Nash running a little bit deep, a little bit wide, losing the momentum from his teammate, putting huge pressure on Aurélien Comte. That heart rate must be racing inside the Peugeot. There's been so much pressure throughout the whole of this race. And Hommler I don't feel like he's close enough, at least to get himself down the inside into the first chicane. They all snake their way left and right down the Mistral straight, trying to break the toe. But Hommler wasn't close enough as he left the last corner, and he's not going to be close enough to do something here. But what he needs is a great run through the chicane. Nice and settled. Oh, he's missed the apex. He's missed the apex, and that is going to be number 1, Aurélien Comte's opportunity to win this, and number 2, Dniel Nash's opportunity to perhaps take 2nd. Gilles Magnus is watching all this from afar, and there's another massive queue behind. But look, Hommler just a little mistake in the chicane on the Mistral. And now it's just a big fire up the inside into the final corner, if they can get close enough to Conte. But I don't feel like they are. I don't feel like anybody's really close enough to anyone to make it stick. Although Conte's massively wide again through the same corner he's been struggling with all day. And now here comes Mato Hommler. A car length between the two of them to change on the last lap the victor of this second race here at Le Castellet. Hommler is defending from Dniel Nash as well. Maybe Nash will get a switchback, a momentum towards the line. It's a long drag towards the start and finishing line, but it is the Frenchman, Aurélien Comte, in the Peugeot who takes victory. Mato Hommler second and Dniel Nash third, with Davidovski driving like a champion there in 4th position. Gilles Magnus just delayed a little bit too much earlier on, and a lonely 5th for him. And then a great battle it was, with Langeveld getting ahead of Beat in the end. Jimmy Claret, Ben Spoldish, Ashkenar, Teddy Claret, and Mora. And then the man who started on pole, Studech, finishing 13th, I think probably with a bit of damage, and Lewis Kent in 14th spot. 14 finishes. Well, that was good, wasn't it? That was really good. That was great fun. Great to have the cars all stuck together like that. I'm not sure whether we'll see it at the next round. When we go to Zolder, it's a very different track. But that was very entertaining. And we'll get a chance to speak with Dniel Nash and hopefully Aurélien Comte in a little bit to find out just how they felt and if their heart rate is anything like mine. My heart rate has gone mental. And once again, I've got my TCR headache from getting too excited. It happens every single race. So once these cars get themselves back to pit lane, we will have a chat with our winners. I'm pretty sure with Ben Spoldish and Tamis Tenke. Tenke, where did he finish? He must have bailed out of the race. I think we saw him bail out quite early on, actually. With no points, the advantage to Dniel Nash is going to increase even more in this championship, with 3 rounds now remaining. As I said before, we're going to have a slipstreamer at Monza. That's going to be very entertaining. But Zolder, a tricky track, really. And I think that will play in the hands of Dniel Nash. And then we'll finish the season off at Barcelona, which is a boring track. But because it's a Formula One circuit and it's very popular, it's modelled on every single sim, and therefore it's used a lot. But there are some tracks that keep appearing in the sim world over this lockdown period, Monza being one and Barcelona being the other. Monza, other than chicane chaos, great fun. But Barcelona, I don't know. Sorry to all my Spanish viewers, but it's not one of my favourites. Jerez, Jarama, yes, that's more like it. And we'll go and finish the TCR series, European series, at Jarama a little bit. Well, it'll be November by the time we get to that point. So let's see if we can get a couple of drivers into our chat have a bit of an interview with them, and then we'll be saying goodbye. And if you want to set your calendars, same time, same place, 2 weeks' time on a Wednesday from now will be the next race of our TCR series online version. And we cannot wait to see how it works out. Right, who has just popped in? Dniel Nash has popped into our chat. Congratulations, dude. Another pole position, another victory, and this time a relatively clean second race.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, it was much harder than you may saw from the outside. After the first race, to be honest, I was not happy at all. I was like, okay, there is a second race, which was not successful in the last, let's say, 2 races. So, yeah, I was really, really concentrated. And I was really cautious at the beginning, maybe too much. I was a bunny at the first lap. And thanks to that, I was dropping back down. But then I was quite lucky in some maneuvers. There were some contacts, some crashes ahead of me. So, yeah, I could catch the front pack.
There was quite a frenetic battle at the end of that second race with Mato kind of toing and froing and struggling with trying to get past Aurélien Comte. And then you had Davidovsky with you. It was a great performance from the Honda. Yeah,
he is improving. I'm so proud of him. He made a very, very good improvement in the last couple of races. So, yeah, it was a good fight with him, a fair fight with him. And then for the last 2 or 3 races, not races, but 2 or 3 laps, in the end, it was super, super crazy. We've been so close together, and I was also trying to avoid a contact with my teammates, so it was exciting, but I was not able to be too much cautious with Mato because we've been fighting for the tires, the free tires. So it was really, really something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, free tires for the winner of each event rather than for each race. See, Aurelian's disappeared. That's a shame because we were about to talk to him. If you can come back, Aurelian, that would be lovely to have you. So just talk a little bit about the limits around Paul Ricard, because it's a difficult track to really know how hard you can push those limits.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a talking point in the couple of few days. There is a system which is penalizing you during qualifying. So qualifying is very easy. You have the limits what the program allows you. If you go over the limit, your lap time will be automatically deleted. So that's all for qualifying. But for race, it's different because the system is too harsh for the races. So we cannot have this automatic penalty system. So yeah, I was really trying to have the same limits as on qualifying, and if I was over the limit, I was backing off, making it clear that I was not taking advantage. But I think there will be a lot of work to do for the official race. I can imagine.
At least next race in Zolder, it's all grass and gravel. Looking forward to that one?
Yeah, really looking forward. Some people wrote me that it's so easy because you are winning the qualifyings and the first races, but I want to make this clear. Every time you need to prepare a lot, you need to practice a lot, and there are some drivers, they are really pushing hard. My Hungarian fellows and also my teammate and then Gilles Magnus and so on. So this is really a hard battle, and of course I won the qualifying again in the first race, but it was not easy. Mato was pushing me constantly, so I need to concentrate for the preparation for Zolder and yeah, try to stay in the front.
You've done a mega job. Thank you very much, Danny, for speaking to us, and see you in 2 weeks.
See you. Ciao, ciao.
So we've lost Aurélien Comte, our race 2 winner, which is a bit of a shame. But congratulations to Danny for picking up those free tyres once again and taking those for his season. If he carries on like this, he'll have free tyres the whole season, I reckon. It's a pretty good deal. And great to have a virtual series with a real-life prize and a real-life impact rather than just this being for fun. Actually, it is being taken seriously by our race director, by our race stewards, and by all of us from TCR Series. We've really enjoyed bringing you this evening and the races before, and we've got Zolder coming up in 2 weeks' time. Then in a month's time, we will be heading to Monza, and then in 6 weeks, we'll finish the championship in Barcelona. And then we'll kick off the real world championship. Yes! But for now, it's time to go and have dinner. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.